This is a VMA hot air machine. It is the B05 model, which means that it has two arms. It has both the cylinder arm and the conventional arm that comes up. I'm going to give a short, very short overview of how this machine functions. First, we will turn the power on, and then you'll see it come up. And while that's coming up, I want to cover something very important. You do not want to turn off this machine while the heating element is still hot. What you want to do first is turn the heat off on the machine, and then wait until the machine completely cools the heating element down and it shuts the blower motor off. So now we'll review some basic parts of it. So like I mentioned, it is a dual arm. So in order to change which arm you're using at the time, just do this. The very basic operation of the machine, which I'm not going to do this right now with the heat on, because the heat makes the blower makes a lot of noise and we won't be able to hear what I'm saying. So if you want to just feed tape in the machine, you press on here, you press the right foot, and that will feed tape. Without the upper column, without the upper roller being pressed down, the hot air arm will not come down. So in order to have the upper roller come down, you will press the left foot. Now if we had the heat on, it would be blowing hot air, but the hot air blower will still swing like if the heater was on. And you can see it feeding the tape. Now, in order to turn the heat on, we would have to press and hold heat on. And it's going to get very loud when I do that. To turn the heat off, we would press and hold the heat on button. Now the machine is hot and it's above 100 degrees Celsius. So it is going to cool itself down before it shuts off the blower motor. Now that the machine is cooled down, we will cover some of the features on the touch panel. You have PV here, which reads the actual temperature as measured by the thermocouple. Here is the thermocouple, which is a replaceable element, and they do sometimes go out. The set temperature is SV, and if we want to set a different temperature, you could set it through this panel here. So I'll just put 600 back in here, which is what we had. There's the heat on and off, as we mentioned. If you want to configure the speed, this is where you set the speed that you're feeding the tape. I have the speed right now set to 3.5. Now I want to talk about the upper roller. The upper roller is set, the pressure is set over here. Here is the air pressure gauge, which tells us the amount of air pressure it's currently running on. So here's the regulator where you set that. And then also you have this knob here. So these three settings are going to help you determine how much pressure you're going to put on the upper roller. I'm going to press the left pedal, which will move down the upper roller. Now I am going to crank this down. And by cranking this down, I'm actually restricting the amount that the upper roller comes down. As you can see, there's a tiny little gap between the upper roller and the lower roller. So if I want to make that come in contact more, I would twist this counterclockwise. And then I could play with the amount of turns, which, as you can see, this tape is slipping through. I could play with the adjustment here. Until I get the desired amount of contact. Now I can't pull the tape out. Maybe I want more pressure or less pressure. So I'll back off the regulator. It's still going to maintain the same temperature because we're engaged. So I will disengage and re-engage, and you can see the pressure is greatly cut in half. And now I can pull just a little bit on the tape here. So if I wanted more pressure, I could turn the regulator up. Still slipping, and this is just going to depend on your application. It's still slipping. If I didn't want it to slip, whatever the desired effect is, I could come over here and back it off a little bit to get a little bit more pressure. And there's no one universal setting for this. This is going to depend on the seam you're sewing, how thick the material is that you're sewing. You know, if you're trying to seal a boot versus sealing a seam, this adjustment is going to be different as well. So there's no one universal right way to do it. Now, just for a visual record for anybody who has bought this machine, I will review how the tape goes through the machine. You have the tape coming up off the roll. This adjustment arm, if you need to make it looser than the 180 degrees that it goes, you could lift it up, move it, and get more adjustment out of this. It comes down, comes through this unroller. This will make sure, this actually does the work of pulling the strip off the roll so that the rollers themselves are not. Goes through the tensioner, down through the block, and then it goes through this guide. And this guide is where you can adjust different size of tapes. And then goes down there through the rollers. Now this machine will come with a toolbox, and depending on how you ordered it, may come with the upper roller, which is usually custom to the application, maybe not, depending on how you ordered it. This is a spare bottom roller. It's got some fuses and relays. We have glass tubes that go with the heating element. This is a replacement heating element. And this is a replacement thermocouple. And we also have a set of Allen wrenches, which we'll use here in a second. get this machine, the unroller will not be on the machine so as to fit in the crate. It will be separately detached, and so what you will need to do is put this on and then tighten the Allen screws. And I'm going to do that while off camera because I can't use both hands and hold the phone at the same time. Now that those screws are tightened up, there will be a plug hanging off here, and make sure you do this while the machine is off. Plug it in, and take the screwdriver that you were provided and tighten up these screws so that it doesn't accidentally get yanked out. This machine requires compressed air to operate, and also requires a substantial amount of power. It is rated at 3 kilowatts of total current draw. So at 240 volts, 3 kilowatts is about 12.5 amps. This machine takes 200 to 240 volts, and to operate in the United States, we equip it with a NEMA 6-20 plug.